Meet me tonight in dreamland, where love's sweet roses bloom. Come with the love light gleaming in your dear eyes of blue. Meet me in dreamland, sweet dreamy dreamland. There let my dreams come true, true, true. Okay. My dreams come true. My dreams come true.
Well, folks, I'm glad you could come down to see my fallout shelter. Just finished painting it last night.
Looks like a nice job, Walt.
You know, this shelter is a real good idea. If we should ever have a nuclear war, we could get a heavy fallout even though we were not anywhere near the target area. So, Ruth and I got to thinking about it, and we figured we'd rather be prepared than sorry.
You know, Walt, this gives me an idea. Remember I was thinking about building a dark room in my basement? There's no reason why I couldn't use it for that, too.
Oh, this would make a perfect dark room as well as a fallout shelter. Come on in, see the inside.
Hey, isn't this nice?
Well, Sir Ruth and I certainly can live in here very comfortably for at least 2 weeks. And you know, this room can be put to other uses as well.
Yes, Walt. You could use this as an extra bedroom for company.
Yeah, and when those grandchildren come, it'd be a great place to put them.
You certainly have this well stocked. Radio, extra batteries, fire extinguisher.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, besides being a fallout shelter, it's a good place to be during a tornado.
Walt, you've done a real good job. Walt, how long did it take you to build your shelter?
Not so long. Oh, I spent a few evenings and a couple of weekends. It's really not so hard to build. Anybody who isn't all thumbs can do it.
I'd like to know how you went about it. Wouldn't you, Helen? We'll listen. Go ahead, Walt.
Well, here's the way anybody can do just what I have done. To begin with, the best way to build anything is the right way. So I got this bulletin. It's the official bulletin put out by the Office of Civil and Defense Mobilization, called the Family Fallout Shelter. Another booklet is available from the National Concrete Masonry Association. Both can be obtained from your local civil defense office or the local concrete block producer. Now, my first suggestion to you would be to get these bulletins. Get these bulletins and study them, because in it there are various types of fallout shelters, not only the basement fallout shelter, but also others. Now, once you have that, then I would suggest that you and the family go down into the basement and decide on just where you're going to build that basement fallout shelter. Now, I decided to put it in this corner. Once that is decided, then the next thing I did, I drew these lines on the floor, because these lines show me exactly where the walls are to be. Before laying the blocks of the wall along these lines that I have laid out here, it's necessary that we check the floor to see whether it's level. You see, it may be higher on one end or the other. Make or get a straight edge. Now, a straight edge, we must have one edge absolutely straight. And the other edge must be parallel to this edge. That is, it must be just as wide all the way along. Now, this can be a 1x4 or a 1x6, just so that it's perfectly straight and the sides parallel. Now, lay the straight edge along the place where you're going to have the wall. Now, if it should rock, that means that it's high in the center. Now, if it is high in the center, you really can't make a good check. So take two blocks. They must be of the same thickness, though. Put one under this end, and the other one under the other end. Now you can put your level on the straight edge any place along the way. Now, if it isn't level, that means that you have to raise up one end or the other end until it is perfectly level. Then you can see what the difference might be. Now, if that difference isn't too great, you can make up that difference with the first layer of mortar under the first course of concrete blocks. This is a heavyweight 4x8x16 solid concrete block, and they're readily available. Thick, heavy walls and ceiling protect against radiation. The thicker, the better. Concrete blocks, therefore, are very well suited for this type of construction. You lay the block right on top. You notice this line extending over here? This line extending there? Now, I can't see the line here, but I made this extension so I can line up my block. And you see, I settle it down and squeeze out the mortar. I have already drilled a hole in the wall for the toggle bolt. To locate that hole, you put the bolt through the post. Set the post in the exact location where you want the hole. And then tap it lightly. Not too hard, because it may spoil the threads on the bolt. Then you use the star drill to drill a hole through and possibly open it up a little, large enough for the toggle to pass through. Put the toggle onto the bolt and run the bolt just through the toggle, just so it comes out on the other side. Okay? Then you bring it in position, squeeze it together, and let it go through. Pull it back. Now, before you tighten this, put the toggle into the bottom hole, same way. And then you start tightening this up. Pulling the post back just a little so that the wings back there will flip around. Now that I have all the posts securely in place, I'll place this beam on top of these posts. It will support the joist on this end, and the shelter wall will support the joist on the other end. One nail from that side and two from underneath. forget to make a shove joint so that you have a full joint of mortar. Now here's another trick that will be of help to you. This straight edge that I used at the beginning will be a great help to you to line up these blocks so that they'll be perfectly straight. I'm getting along real well with my fallout shelter walls. But if you feel that you need some help, why don't you get a mason to assist you? I'm in the process of putting up the joists, and it's necessary to put bracing between the joists to keep them from tipping. Now it's also necessary to toe nail the joist into the beam on both sides. Now that the ceiling joists are in place, I can put up the ceiling boards. It's well not to put up too many boards because you have to lay these concrete blocks in place. You see, you need 2 layers of concrete block, one laid in this direction and the other laid in the opposite direction. You don't need mortar for this. Just lay them up dry and as tightly together as you can get them. Before completing the walls, it's necessary to lay all of the ceiling blocks. Otherwise, afterwards, you wouldn't be able to get in. Well, this finishes my fallout shelter. Notice this baffle wall, which covers the opening. Now, it'd be a good thing, you know, if you would get your larger pieces of furniture, such as the bunks and possibly table, in there before you build that wall. Otherwise, you may have a hard time to get them in afterwards. Now, you don't really have to paint the walls, but my wife thought it would be nice if I did. So maybe I'd better get busy and finish it right now. Folks, here is a message from the Honorable Leo A. Howitt, Director of the Office of Civil and Defense Mobilization.
You've just seen how Walt has built a family fallout shelter in his own home. I have a shelter in my home. It offers my family good protection in case of a nuclear attack. It also serves a dual purpose, a spare bedroom. We know from tests and from study and from research that the single best action for the protection of the greatest number of people in case of a nuclear attack is a family fallout shelter. May I therefore urge that you build a shelter in your home. By doing so, you not only protect your family, but also you contribute to the nation's security. You add to another strong deterrent to war. We recognize that you need additional information, and for that reason, may I ask that you contact your local civil defense office and obtain additional information, or contact your local concrete block manufacturer for plans and information. No home in America is modern without a family fallout shelter. This is the nuclear age.
You're watching Sleepcore. Pleasant dreams.
Information about the beneficial uses of atomic energy knows no national boundaries. The facts are available today, for nuclear energy isn't waiting to help people everywhere in some brave new world of the future. The peaceful atom is here now to serve what President Eisenhower has termed the needs rather than the fears of mankind. Nuclear reactors or atomic furnaces like this one provide the product that makes possible practical applications of nuclear energy. That product is the radioisotope, the atomic tracer, a common element tagged with radiation like a sheep with a bell. And because they are tagged, they can be traced, thus giving scientists, engineers, and doctors worldwide an invaluable tool for research and money-saving applications into biology, medicine, health, agriculture, and industry. In the past 8 years, the United States has made more than 47,500 shipments of radioisotopes to more than 2,000 users in this country and almost 3,000 shipments to 53 countries all over the globe at or below cost. Today, atomic radiation controls quality of industrial production, reduces industrial costs, achieves results hitherto impossible. Radioisotopes are at work today in the oil industry. Oil producers have the difficult problem of identifying each different batch of crude oil pumped from an oil field. Therefore, a small amount of an atomic tracer is added to the head of each new batch of crude oil at the field. Pumps force the radioactively tagged oil through pipes to the refinery. A radiation counter detects the radioisotope when it arrives at the head of each new batch of oil and automatically signals refinery headquarters. Savings, $500,000 a year. And the savings increase as the radioisotope is applied to oil prospecting, leak detection, and acidizing of oil wells. But petroleum is only one industry. Let's turn to motors and see how the tagged atom works there. Piston rings, previously made radioactive in a reactor, arrive at an engineering laboratory. The lead container stops dangerous radiations. One of the rings is then attached to the piston of an automobile engine. The problem is to measure how the piston ring wears in a test engine. When the engine is running, the piston ring rubs against other metal, causing tiny particles of the ring to wear away due to friction. These radioactive particles gradually accumulate in the engine oil. By measuring the radioactivity in the oil, engineers can tell how well the piston ring resists wear. Practical applications like these are already saving more than $100 million a year in American industry alone. Back in the engineering laboratory, instruments detect and measure the radioactivity in the oil. Before radioisotopes were known, tests for wear on moving parts had to be made by slow, inaccurate methods. Atoms from the radioactive iron are disintegrating and giving off bursts of energy. A radiation counter picks up these bursts of energy and a scaler counts them. Other radiation measuring instruments work automatically. Part of the machine records radiation counts on a tape. Several dozen oil samples can be tested for radioactivity in quick succession. Automatically, each oil sample is positioned and its radioactivity is counted. Factories now have an invaluable aid in radioactivity. In any process involving sheet material, paper or metal for instance, the thickness of the product must be measured and controlled with extreme accuracy. Using radioactivity, all this can be done without stopping actual production. In the base of the thickness gauging machine is some radioactive material. The sheet product blocks some of the radiation. The thicker the material, the more particles blocked. A radiation detector counts the radioactive particles passing through the sheet material. The thickness gauge employing radioactivity thus instantly measures any variation in thickness without costly interruptions to production. Industry saves millions of dollars yearly. To find dangerous flaws in metals or to test weldings, an X-ray film is attached to the metal. Radioactive material is taken from a lead storage safe and set in place to take a picture by exposing the X-ray film. Invisible rays penetrate metal, literally see into its heart, exposing the film. Since rays pass through flaws more easily than through perfect areas, the hidden flaws or faulty weldings are pinpointed accurately when the X-ray film is developed and a picture made. The tiny radioactive source can be spotted in tight or dangerous places where bulky X-ray equipment could not be fitted. Metallurgists, engineers, and construction workers have a new partner, an inexpensive partner, in the atom. But the atom is more than a symbol. Locked in its tiny nucleus is tremendous energy. In a piece of uranium the size of a walnut, there's as much potential energy as in the amount of coal to fill a 100-car train. The question is how to get this power, how to put this vast energy to work in the power plants to run the turbines of tomorrow. Here's one way. As uranium atoms in the nuclear reactor disintegrate, tremendous amounts of heat are generated. When the heat is transferred to a liquid, and the liquid is circulated from the reactor to a boiler room, it can produce steam. Steam drives a generator to produce electricity. And we are building such a unit today, the nation's first full-scale atomic power plant to produce 60,000 kilowatts of useful electricity, enough for a small city. It won't produce power economically competitive with coal or oil, but it is a major step in that direction, a big hope for the future. The future is the child of the past, and here at the experimental breeder reactor, known as the EBR, way back in December 1951 on an isolated desert in Idaho, was produced the first useful electrical power from the atom. These very motion pictures were taken with electrical power from the EBR, the first motion picture cameras ever driven by the products of nuclear energy. The operator brings the reactor up to power to gain the high heat to be transformed to electricity. This reactor is a forerunner of the machines which one day, with the help of the International Atomic Energy Agency, may provide abundant electrical energy in the power-starved areas of the world. Electrical power from the atom, for many years, may not be economically competitive in the United States, where fuel is plentiful. But with technical help from this country, economically competitive power reactors probably could be built in a much shorter time in high power cost areas overseas. Right now, out of these first nuclear machines, we're not buying power. We're buying knowledge, knowledge that we wish to share. The United States will open a reactor training school where scientists and engineers from abroad may learn the working principles of atomic energy. Now at the EBR, tremendous heat has been generated as the controlled chain reaction reaches a critical point. Heat is used to create steam, a process monitored by a trained technician. In the control room, steam pressure is watched. When it is right, a technician in the turbo generator room opens the throttle to let steam into the turbine. The drive coupling spins. Useful electricity has been generated by the atom. The desert is dark as the control room operator gets ready to shift from standard electrical lines to electricity provided by the atomic reactor. When he shuts the switch, all facilities inside the building, such as the machine shop, and all lights outside the building will be powered by atomic energy. Today, a bold experiment. In future years, a reality for homes and factories and schools all over the world. A beacon for the future, a symbol of hope. Now to the fields and farms of the world, where the atom means more productive farming at lower cost, more and better food for a hungry world. Nuclear research is finding more effective ways of using fertilizers, is producing stronger strains of disease-resistant crops, is fighting plant pests and diseases of plants and livestock, is studying the mysterious growth process that makes the food we eat and the coal and oil we burn. Botanists at a national laboratory where crops are grown under controlled radiation conditions gather valuable data on effects of radiation on plants and on future generations of plants. This work suggests ways of developing hardier, weather and disease-resistant strains of food crops. Altered plants may produce altered seeds, a cycle that may give new types of crops to the world. Yet how nature produces the food we eat is a fascinating mystery for atomic investigation. Photosynthesis, it's called, the process plants use in taking energy from sunlight and combining it with air and soil to make the complex food elements without which no life would survive on this planet. Investigators use atomic tracers to identify the complicated compounds produced by natural photosynthesis. Knowledge from this research someday may make it possible for us to manufacture food, synthetic gasoline, and coal. In special water-cooled greenhouses, atomic researchers grow many food and medicinal plants in a radioactive atmosphere. From these plants come the many compounds familiar to medicine and biology. The crucial difference is they are radioactive. They can be traced. From poppies, tobacco, and other plants come radioactive drugs, carbohydrates, acids, proteins, vitamins that are extremely useful today to researchers in medicine, biochemistry, physiology, and agriculture. So atomic farmers harvest radioactive crops that go to work for the knowledge of man's living environment. But the most immediate benefit of atomic research to the farmer is information on the most effective use of fertilizers. Botanists blend radioactive tracers with soil in order to study soil and plant nutrition. They have already established invaluable data showing where and how fertilizers should be placed for maximum uptake. When the plant uses the fertilizers most efficiently, what fertilizers are best for various soils, and how fertilizer is absorbed from the soil. This vital information is saving thousands of tons of fertilizer and millions of dollars every year for the farmer. At the same time, research produces data that may lead to better, stronger strains of plants. Similar tracer research is giving valuable information on insecticides and making definite headway against crop pests and the diseases of fruit and shade trees. Radioaction's use for food preservation and sterilization also is being investigated. But perhaps it's the atom's fight against suffering and disease that most strongly captures our imagination. Controlled radioactivity has placed us 25 years ahead in the battle against pain and death. Capturing the atom's probing power, science has found a powerful new tool to study and defeat sickness and make a healthier, happier life for the benefit of all mankind. The versatility of the atom in medicine is illustrated by the radioactive iodine atomic cocktail, which not only speeds diagnosis of thyroid cancer and other thyroid ailments, but also is effective in treatment of some types of cancer. Iodine concentrates in the thyroid, and when it is tagged with radioactivity, it forces the thyroid to reveal its exact condition. An amazing radiation counter actually draws a picture of the thyroid area to speed diagnosis or therapy. Radioisotopes, the greatest research tool since the microscope. Cancer research goes forward all over the world with radioisotopes distributed at only 20% of cost. But cancer isn't the only disease under atomic investigation. Brain tumors, hyperthyroidism, leukemia, and other blood diseases, hardening of the arteries, heart disease, virus infections, diabetes, circulatory diseases, anemia, nervous and mental ailments. All are slowly giving up some of their intimate secrets to science with the aid of atomic energy. We go into New York's Montefiore Hospital to see a powerful aid in the fight against disease, the cobalt teletherapy unit, which was developed and is being improved by cooperating scientists all over the world. With a sharp, effective beam of atomic radiation, which does not injure healthy tissue near the cancer, the nuclear tool bombards deep-seated tumors with a stream of invisible rays, billions of particles of energy similar to X-rays, but much stronger. Tumors shrink, and cancer cells are destroyed as this one machine gives off more radiation than all the medical radium in the world. No cure-all, final results will take time to evaluate, but a big step forward in cancer treatment. In a message to the Atoms for Peace exhibit in Rome, President Eisenhower said that history will one day record as the most far-reaching physical accomplishment of the century, or even of 20 centuries, the discoveries which in recent years unlocked for the use of mankind the boundless energy of the atom, the versatile, peaceful atom that promotes agriculture, fights disease, provides valuable radioactive tracers for science and industry, that is the basis for future economical power for cities, homes, and factories. America, as President Eisenhower pointed out to the United Nations, deeply desires to join countries all over the globe in adapting the atom to the arts of peace.
As the space race between the Soviet Union and the United States intensified in the 1950s, all American automakers were infected by space-age design. Ford embraced this fad in 1954 with the Atmos, and in 1955 with the Mystere. Stylists designed the Mystere to make sure its rocket-like lines were fit for takeoff. Everything looked like it belonged in a sci-fi inspired spaceship. The Mystere qualified as a cosmic design. Ford stylists reached the extraterrestrial limits with the Atmos. It didn't sport atomic-powered rocket boosters. In fact, it didn't have a motor of any kind. These were only a styling touch. The Atmos never hit the road. Months later, Studebaker entered the space race with the Astro. It was their take on an atomic-powered car for the future. The Astral really didn't have a nuclear power source, but engineers said it was just around the corner. They also said nuclear radiation would be no problem. The Astral would have an emissions guard and to ward off crashes an energy field. The Astral and other proposed nuclear-powered cars were never produced. People finally realized that an accident might cause a meltdown on Main Street.
Live at the crippled nuke plant in Middletown, Pennsylvania, over here behind me. Isn't that beautiful?
On this problem, very little sense of urgency about it. Very little sense of urgency about it. I think now there should be a greater sense of urgency about all of the questions that relate to nuclear safety. And the states ought to be involved. A state should not just be forced to accept nuclear waste to be stored in its territory.
This morning, Carl Abraham, a federal official involved in this drama, said that radiation inside the reactor has exposed some key instruments to greater levels than they were designed to withstand. The effect on the accuracy of the instruments is uncertain, that is, but Abraham says if too many instruments fail because of radiation exposure, scientists will lose confidence that they know what's going on inside the system.
In a bank truck.
Microwave 7 settings.
Save $70 on us.
Maryland's largest Datsun dealer at 29 Datsun 210s for $620 only.
Contamination, it's all hoax. I mean, you know, we've got the situation under control, and, you know, try to repair. Much chance of a meltdown? No, absolutely not. You know, we've been working on this problem. We've got the oldest plants out in Idaho working on the problem. We're working on it. Everything's totally under control.
State, but the hauler has agreed not to use the heavily traveled Capital and Baltimore beltways. The waste will be taken to a South Carolina burial site.
An explosion. Here's the scene they're returning to this morning. However, pregnant mothers and young children are being asked to stay away as a precautionary measure. Engineers are at work this morning to shut down the reactor totally so they can inspect it for damage, but it's not certain how long it will take. Meanwhile, here in Washington, a Senate committee begins hearings today on
Lóra, gyerekek, lóra! Meg be van szekezve az ablak is a házon.
Hello, everybody. I'm Fred McMurray. You have just seen some pictures showing the devastating destruction of atomic energy, and also some pictures showing that atomic energy can be a force for good. And these are just a few of the wonderful and until recently secret motion picture scenes which we are going to show you. Now, I think I'm an average American citizen, like most of you, and when I hear the word atom, I immediately think of the word bomb, which shows you how very little I know about atomic energy. But I've been asked to come here by Father Keller, the founder of the Crystal Movement, and to help him in presenting this film. And so here I am. And now, Father James Keller.
Thank you very much, Fred, for being with us.
Father, tell me, how did you ever happen to get interested in atomic energy?
Well, there's a great story behind that. It's an instance of what one person can do. One day, a man in the atomic energy field dropped in here at our office and said that he'd heard we were going to make 30 pictures, 30 Christopher pictures, to get people of quality into the fields that count. Yours just to make one on atomic energy. And I looked at him. I wondered how we could ever do that. And he didn't pay any attention to my protesting. And he said, well, if you do, if you can show that this power is from God and it can be used for research into medicine and agriculture, industry, and countless other ways, it may have a great effect in benefiting mankind for the future. And you said if you don't, or some movement like yours doesn't, most of us may be blasted off the face of the earth.
Well, he couldn't have put it any stronger, could he?
It frightened me at first, but then I got over the shock quickly, and then I saw it in a tremendous challenge. Gee, even if you could have the smallest, most insignificant part in changing this power from destructive to a constructive force and use it as God intended as a benefit for mankind, that'd be a thrill. So we started right away to get into it, and I've been fiddling around ever since, trying to get scripts, everything else, and I think we've just about hit it. So we plan not only to do one film, we'd like to do about 2 or 3 films on atomic energy. Well, I think now we ought to get into the picture, bring it to the friends, Fred.
This is Hal Gibney. I will act as your guide as we look at these atomic energy pictures which Fred McMurray and Father Keller just spoke to you about. You are now looking at scientists at work at a most vital function in atomic energy, the production of what is known as radioactive materials. It looks big and confusing and kind of complicated, doesn't it? Well, for the average person not steeped in scientific knowledge, it is complicated. But we don't intend in these pictures to try to explain the miracle of atomic energy. We hope to show only how this God-given force can be used as a blessing. For example, let us look in on a famous cancer research hospital and get a close look at atomic energy working as a benefit for mankind. This girl is suffering from one of mankind's most dreaded diseases, cancer. She has cancer of the thyroid gland.
A few years ago, this would have meant her case was hopeless unless radical surgery was used.
This glass looks like it has plain water in it, but actually it contains hope. Hope in the form of a radioactive iodine solution. Most people know that iodine is used in treating thyroid, but let's explain where this radioactive business comes in. By splitting the atoms of iodine, you get the radioactive iodine solution the girl is drinking. Here we see the young lady on the examination table. Suppose instead of the radioactive solution she had swallowed, a tiny wristwatch. If you could listen closely enough, you could hear it ticking in her throat. The little bit of atomic energy in that solution starts sending out signals from her throat in somewhat the same way as the ticking of the watch. The apparatus suspended above her neck is picking up the so-called ticking. So the radioactive solution produced by atomic study is helping the doctor in his efforts to help the girl.
You can imagine how thrilled she is to know that there is one more ray of hope for her.
Let us look at the many places in America where for many years thousands have worked in the field of atomic energy. Here's the main headquarters of the Atomic Energy Commission in Washington, D.C. Branching out from this central headquarters is a vast network of projects. This is the Brookhaven National Laboratory in Upton, New York, where one of our greatest atomic furnaces is located. At the Hanford Works in the state of Washington, a tremendous program in health physics is underway. And this is the plant industry station at Beltsville, Maryland. They're using atomic energy to learn more about growth and nutrition of plants. In Schenectady, New York, at the Knowles Atomic Power Laboratory, scientists are studying how atomic energy can be used for power. Here is Oak Ridge Laboratory, where the radioactive iodine came from that brought the smile of hope to our girl in the first scenes. At the University of California in Los Angeles, there is an important project. In the deserts of New Mexico at Los Alamos, there is another. And at New Brunswick, New Jersey, still another. In Idaho, there is an important atomic energy testing station. Finally, there is the Argonne National Laboratory in Chicago. While we are here, let us go inside and see a remarkable example of the ingenuity which man has utilized in dealing with the potentially dangerous forces of atomic energy. Here is a testing room where various metals and materials are subjected to intense radiation. This room is shielded by concrete walls 3 feet thick. Just think of it. A force you can't see or feel, and yet it is so powerful it has to be shielded by 3-foot walls. In order to handle the materials in this dangerous place, the Argonne workers have invented a fantastically wonderful pair of artificial hands operated by remote control. These robot hands are designed to imitate the 7 human motions employed in grasping, lifting, moving, and turning objects. Here is a man who has practically 4 hands. Isn't that something? You'll note that he has his fingers inserted into metal finger tubes. Every motion that he makes with his fingers and hands is exactly duplicated through remote control by the mechanical hands inside the testing room. He's watching his other pair of hands through a window built of laminated layers of glass to a thickness of 3 feet. You are now looking through this 3-foot thick window at the mechanical hands. And here is what he is pulling out. In each of these containers is a small portion of some element that has just been made radioactive. These are the tracers used in various experiments, both in science and in industry. All over the United States, in laboratories, in greenhouses, in the open fields, thousands of workers are learning more about how plants grow, how they use the materials in the soil. From what they find out in experiments such as you see here, they'll be able to put fertilizers to better use and so get better crops. Certainly here is a blessing to mankind. In this field of corn, they are studying the effect of radiation. They are learning more and more about corn. Here is a scientist who, for all intents and purposes, is a farmer. He is taking the pollen from one ear of corn and pouring it into another ear of the same plant. This is a plant that has received radiations of atomic energy. This experiment will help to show the effect of radiation on future generations of corn. All these experiments are constructive uses of this dangerous force. Of course, all the efforts in agriculture are not confined to working with plants alone. For example, here in this laboratory, under the blazing rays of an artificial sun, they are trying to solve the greatest mystery connected with plants. How does the green coloring matter of a plant enable it to use carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight to produce oxygen and plant tissue? How does it use the energy of sunlight as a part of its process of growth and produce the food we eat? Suppose they find out? They may be able to grow bigger and better food plants. They may even be able to create food elements in the laboratory without the plants. More food for a starving world. A blessing indeed.
Friends, that's just part of the film that you're going to see on this wonderful subject of atomic energy, the hopeful side of atomic energy. But I think you've noticed, as it impressed me, and I think it's probably impressed you the same way, that people did this. A handful of people have discovered, uncovered for all of us, the positive, constructive side of atomic energy. As I was telling Mr. McMurray a little while ago, that in each instance, it's emphasis on what one person can do. Didn't that impress you too, Fred?
It certainly did, Father. Oh, say, Father, in your book, there was a good example of what one person can do. I mean the story about the school teacher up in Deming, Washington. Dorothy Massey was her name, wasn't it?
That was right.
Why don't you tell the audience about that?
I'll be delighted. This story that Fred mentions is a splendid example of what one person can do far removed from the atomic energy field. This teacher, Dorothy Massey, she's 58 years old. She teaches science in the Consolidated High School. And she's not simply taking care of herself for a little area. She wants to make the world better for being in it. Besides tackling atomic energy, she does many other things. She works from morning till night. During this summer, she's doing all sorts of things. Over the weekend, she's teaching at the Baptist Sunday School. And she just can't do enough to help others. Well, in her class in science, she tried to get over to the teenagers that they too could play a part in making atomic energy God-given help to mankind. She emphasized what they could do, what can be done through research in medicine, agriculture, industry, and all these various fields. And she thought that maybe some of them would pick up this idea and go into this important sphere of influence. Well, what happened? Several of her graduates have gone into the field of atomic energy, and one of them won a prize, a national prize for science for all America, teenager. And they told me when I was at the Atomic Energy Commission in Washington that this young lad may be one of the great scientists of America in the future. Why? Because not only does he have a disposition towards science, but above that, he has a spiritual sense that's going to restrain it and use it for the advantage of mankind. Dorothy Massey has given a heartening example to all of us. It's one more instance of what one person can do.
Wouldn't it be a great thing, Father, if there were just one Dorothy Massey in each town and city in the country?
Why, the whole future peacetime development of atomic energy would be assured.
That's right.
Now, for our Christopher Thought for the week, I think this text is particularly appropriate. It's from St. Paul to the Hebrews. Here are his words. For we have not here a lasting city, but we seek one that is to come. Well, that's rather appropriate now in an atomic age. We have not here a lasting city. But even before atomic energy, before atomic bombs and hydrogen bombs came along, we're only here for a while. But at least God wanted us to have a little foretaste of heaven on earth. He meant us to have peace. He meant us to use all the powers of the earth for our benefit, not for our destruction. Try to make atomic energy a force for good. Now in the Christophers, as we mentioned many times before, we have no organization, no memberships, no meetings, no dues. We pass along little suggestions, indications of what others have done in our monthly news notes that we send to 1 million people at the present time. And we will be glad to send them to you. All you need to do is send a postcard to the Christophers, New York, 17 New York. We will be glad to send them to you without any cost whatever. Keep in mind, as we try to emphasize over and over again, the part that you can play in changing this world. This is your world. And God wants you to reach out to the world, reach out to everybody. All of humanity is nothing more than you over and over again. Show that this 20th century in which we're privileged to live can do something that's going to help man. We've achieved many things in a physical, mechanical way, but let us not forget that it has remained for our day to bring to humanity universal death and destruction if we mishandle atomic and hydrogen energy. Do your part to show that this can be a servant of man, used for his benefit. And then once you are reaching out to the fields, you must do more than simply take an attitude of wishful thinking. You must do something. Take an interest in your government. Take an interest in your schools, in your radio, in your television, all your means of communication. Better literature, better everything that's going to fill them with good ideas instead of reducing them to the status of a brute. There'll be less and less of brutality the more we bring into our hearts the peace and love that God wants us to have. Don't forget the part that you can play. No matter who you are or what you are, no matter what your circumstances may be, there is a part that you personally can play in changing the whole world for the better.